สวัสดีค่ะต้อนรับคุณผู้ชมเข้าสู่รายการ Money Forum อยู่กับดิฉันสรวณีพรหมเสนค่ะในสัปดาห์นี้เรายังคงต่อเนื่องกับงาน FAP International Conference 2016 ภายใต้ธีม Digital Economy Impact on Accounting Profession ค่ะซึ่งงานนี้ก็เป็นงานที่จะยกระดับพัฒนาศักยภาพและเปลี่ยนแปลงผู้ประกอบวิชาชีพบัญชีไทยก้าวสู่เศรษฐกิจดิจิทัลในอนาคตเพราะการเปลี่ยนแปลงเรื่องของเทคโนโลยีดิจิทัลนะคะเข้ามาอย่างรวดเร็วยิ่งกระตุ้นให้ภาครัฐและภาคเอกชนนั้นต้องสนับสนุนแล้วก็ลงทุนในเรื่องของนวัตกรรมเพื่อที่จะยกระดับคุณภาพการให้บริการให้สะดวกและรวดเร็วมากยิ่งขึ้นเพราะฉะนั้นในช่วงแรกค่ะจะพาคุณผู้ชมไปทำความเข้าใจตรงกันเกี่ยวกับเรื่องของผู้ประกอบวิชาชีพบัญชีไทยที่ต้องรับมือกับผลกระทบใน Digital Economy Technology Trends Impacting Accounting Professions ค่ะ
So, social media, very important. We all have our apps. We have Twitter. We have QQ. We have Weibo. All these different ways to we communicate. But social media is also changing these days. So what has happened in social media? It's no longer simple a messaging. They're also having new ways on how they interact with one another, with each other. And how many people of you use Twitter? Show of hands, please. Some people? Excellent. But how many people use Periscope? Periscope? Okay, it's one of Twitter's functionalities. It allows live streaming of videos. And I'll share you a Periscope, which was actually the White House's first Periscope when the Pope visited America last year. So in this video, this is live, it's streamed on the phone. You can see the person moving the phone. It actually jiggles a bit. The hearts are the number of likes. And you have people actually engaging across the globe by sending their comments through. And that's a very different way in terms of the way we engage with people, the way we engage with our clients, our customers, and everybody else. It's something that is actually bringing connection to a different level. The next one I'll talk about is, again, a social platform. This is a bridge out in Rotterdam. It's called the Lichtengold Bridge. But is it any different from any bridge that we've seen in the past? Probably not, besides it's colored yellow, very vibrant. But it is different. And why is it different? This bridge was actually built on a social level, meaning it was designed using a crowdsourced idea. But it was not just designed with the crowd in mind. It was actually crowdfunded as well. And that is changing the way how public structures are actually being built. It's no longer for the few or the people in government, but it is actually now to all of us. So the responsibility and the accountability, the ideas, the money is also coming from citizens. And that changes the dynamic in terms of how things work through social platforms. It's actually quite interesting. If you see here, you'll see the scribbles on the little slats of yellow. And that's actually each person's name who's contributed to this bridge. So it's a different way of engaging with the public on a very large scale. So that's social. In terms of robotics, everybody recognizes this car. It's a Tesla car, fully electronic. But is it different from any other car manufacturer that we have today? And the answer is yes. How is it different? Because it actually doesn't rely on human beings to actually being manufactured or being produced. And most of you would have seen the Tesla manufacturing, but if you haven't, I'll show you a quick video in terms of how a car is actually produced So here, I'll ask you to look for the human being. This is all done by robots, from sheet of metal all the way to production of a car. I actually love this part, where the robot itself is actually putting the passenger seat. And you'll watch this part even gets better. The robot decides to take the windscreen, and then it even applies the glue before putting it on. And that's how Tesla's being made today. And how many human beings were there? 2? No, there's just 1. In all of this, there's only 1 human being. So what does that mean for us as professional accountants? Yes, this is the area of robotics, but you could also say this is the area in terms of the way the world is moving, in terms of using technology, digitization, and IT. So that's manufacturing. But you probably say, well, Faye, that's only for the manufacturing of goods and services. It doesn't really affect us. It doesn't affect the softer side of things. But we all know too well about this guy, Watson, IBM, and Watson's prowess to do games. And that's the beginning of artificial intelligence. And I'll give you again another video to show you how great IBM's Watson is. And this was done a couple years ago. This is nothing new. But it shows that Watson is actually beating 2 of the world champions in terms of in Jeopardy.
100. Go again.
Beatles people for 200.
And anytime you feel the pain, hey, this guy, refrain. Don't carry the world upon your shoulders. Watson.
Who is Jude?
Yes.
Olympic oddities for 200.
Milorad Kavic almost upset this man's perfect 2008 Olympics, losing to him by 1/100th of a second. Watson.
Who is Michael Phelps?
Yes. Go.
Name the decade for 200.
Disneyland opens and the peace symbol is created. Ken.
What are the 50s?
Yes.
Final Frontiers for 1,000, Alex.
Tickets aren't needed for this event, a black hole's boundary from which matter cannot escape. Watson.
What is Event Horizon?
Yes.
Literary character APB for 200.
Wanted for a 12-year crime spree of eating King Hrothgar's warriors. Officer Beowulf has been assigned the case. Watson.
Who is Grendel?
Yes.
Final Frontiers for 200.
It's Michelangelo's fresco on the wall of the Sistine Chapel, depicting the saved and the damned. Watson.
What is The Last Judgment?
Correct.
That's an example today, well, it's in the past, in terms of how AI has actually progressed. And over time, as you can imagine, it's just becoming better and better. Watson can actually speak different languages. He can answer the questions in Thai, Japanese, Chinese, and everything else. And that's the beginning of AI. And again, you probably say, well, that's really simplistic. Fair enough, right? It's a Q&A, question and answer. He has an encyclopedia. It's just about Googling the information. But it's also changing the way we actually read things or the way things are published online. Forbes magazine, everybody will know of, will have heard of. But did you know that some of its articles are actually written by a computer? I have 2 proses here, or 2 articles here, and I'd like you all to take some time to read these 2 articles. And I'd like you to guess which one is written by a human and which one is written by a computer. You guys have this question on your app, so please take out your phones and have your apps ready, and we'll show the results in a couple of minutes. All right, everybody loaded up on the app, ready to go? All right, can we have the results on the app, please? right. So we say the left is written, and the right is written. Okay. Are we all in agreement in the room here? Yes? Are you sure? Oh. All right, ready? Are we in agreement? Yes? It's close. I can see this feeling to be a 50-50 at one point, but let's hope not. All right. You want to know the answer by now. You probably all want to know the answer. The one on the left, on the right, is actually written by the human, and the one on the left is written by the computer. We can't vote any longer. You know the answer now, so no more voting. So this is the way, these two articles are actually, you could possibly see why you would vote one over the other for very different reasons. But it just shows you right now where journalists today are probably also out of jobs, because these are now written by algorithms or a computer, especially short articles, right? They're also used in terms of when you do sports articles, so whoever watches Formula 1, most of its articles are actually written by computers these days. Anybody watching any other sports, but Formula 1 is notorious in terms of who you could actually see in terms of who's going to come out. So that's another change in technology. Another change in technology is the way we actually process information, and this is closer to us as accountants. You have software such as Xero, you have software such as TurboTax. And what has it done to tax preparers? It has actually given them out of jobs, or they've displaced them out of roles. In the first 5 years when TurboTax came to force, this is the loss of the tax preparers. In the next 5 years, 10 years later, it decreases to this. And then it further dwindles to this. And that is amazing in terms of what technology has done. And you're probably all wondering, is Faye just scaremongering all of us? And I'm not. And I will share with you, I promise I will share with you, in terms of what our research has found, in terms of how do we make sure we future-proof ourselves and move up the next value chain. The other thing that technology has given us and has actually propelled even further is globalization. The amount of news, the amount of information we consume, the amount of shopping we do online is actually proliferating. And that has given us ways in terms of, as I mentioned earlier, ways we interact with one another on a global scale. No longer is it just simply us or with a selected group of people. But with all this technology, it's also changing the expectations of us. It's changing what is expected out of professional accountants. It's changing the expectations of human beings. And when we did our study, we asked employers and asked them, what are the big data skills needed in the decade ahead? First and foremost is the knowledge of how to actually extract the data and mine for business intelligence. How do you actually, it's not the physical doing of it, but it's the knowledge of being able to do it. And the second one is the use of tools that support data modeling and analysis. So this is changing the role of accountants. It's changing the roles in terms of how do we use technology to move up the value chain. It also allows us to think outside the box and how to use technology so we don't do the mundane things, but do the nice, interesting things, the more strategic things that we need to be doing, which we are poised to do, and we have the skills to do so. So the 4 overarching drivers of change in our global research found that first, again, is increased regulation and stronger governance. We will be transformed by technologies. Globalization will continue to some extent, but of course there's issues about protectionism, which you will hear in the news. And you'll also have expanding expectations of professional accountants. What we're also seeing is a change from the production of tons and tons of stuff from volume and trying to find where are we going to find the value? How can we find value in terms of what we give our business, what we give our clients? How do we define that value? How do we give value to ourselves and to the businesses we work for? And that is a major shift, not only in the services industry, but also in the manufacturing industry. China has been the world has been invested in R&D. China's R&D in the past used to be, what did R&D in China stand for? Rip off and duplicate, not research and development. But that has slowly changed now. They're now moving into more value added. So it's no longer copying what's happening in the West, but how can they actually move up the value chain in creating value of goods? So they're doing proper R&D, research and development, as opposed to purely rip-off and duplicate. So, as I promised, I will also look at the key things that are happening in 6 areas of core accounting functions. So I've broken them down into the 6. We will look at what's happening and what's the impact on the profession over the next 5 to 10 years. And we start in order with audit and assurance. In audit and assurance, we expect that our employers are expecting that accountants will need a greater understanding of technology. No surprise there. Better interpersonal skills. How do you interact with a client? How to know what your client needs before actually doing and knowing before they even know what they need. And the audit of fair value. And the top skills needed for the next 5 to 10 years is no surprise. You have IT knowledge, communication skills, and sector-specific knowledge, business awareness, business acumen, and having a global perspective. For corporate reporting, again, you will find a common theme here, communication. We're so used to doing the reports, but then how do you actually communicate the reports into a compelling story? And the way to engage with new frameworks as they come into fore, as well as a better understanding of financial maths. And the skills will be, again, the holistic view of corporate reporting, as well as using technology, looking at the emerging is the key word, not what's current, but emerging trends in social and mobile. And in financial management, again, a complete view, as well as treasury apparently is going to be more important. So those people who are treasurers, well done for you guys. You guys will become important. And the way of actually, how do you actually use different forms of currency, new forms of transaction? Bitcoin, for example. Apparently, the Pokemon dollars or the Pokemon money is actually being considered by the Bank of Japan as a source of trading or a source of currency. So those are new ways of doing things. One of our members actually works for eBay, and they've actually now take Bitcoin as a form of payment. In the past, they haven't. But then how do you actually put a value to that? Bitcoin values do change quite dramatically. The skills needed for the next 5-10 years are here. It's one, knowledge of emerging issues, business partnering. You can no longer just simply sit in your finance teams thinking about what you're doing, but also thinking, how do you partner with other parts of the business internally and externally? And then we also have advanced investment appraisal, especially today where new businesses are growing very quickly. There's mushrooming, right? You have so many startups. How do you actually put a value on those? Be quite interesting. Some of you may have heard a business model such as pay what you want, right? Pay what you want is a model. Basically, you can go to a restaurant, and there are several of these pay as you want, both in the UK as well as in China. And it's actually, you go to a restaurant, you have a menu, or a coffee shop. There's a menu there. You want a cappuccino, a latte, whatever you want, but there isn't a price. You actually pay them what you think it's worth. Is it worth 500 baht? I don't know, 250 baht, 50 baht? You decide, as a consumer, you decide on how much you want to pay. But then how do you, or how do we, as finance professionals, manage that? It's actually quite complicated. It's actually quite difficult, but it's something that we need to be aware of. And believe it or not, the companies that actually do this have actually reported that they have increased revenue by doing pay what you want, as opposed to having a price. It's a different, very different model. Governance, risk, and ethics. So this will become more important in the future, as well as one of our key trends, as I mentioned earlier, as one of the key drivers of change. It's appreciation and application of tools that enable collaboration. And it's also looking at how do you actually use applied ethics. We're all ethical. We've all done our ethical modules. It's part of our DNA as professional accountants, but then how do you use that in different contexts? And being consistently applying them in everything we do. The 5 next year, in terms of skills, these are some of the skills that we'll be looking at that will be needed is technical awareness, best practices, and that practical application of corporate and professional ethics. Strategic planning and performance, excuse me. So what we're seeing for those people that are in very strategic roles, if you're not yet in there, but I think everybody's in there in this room, you will need to be able to extend your leadership skills beyond the finance function. You need to be leaders, not with marketing, with HR, with everything, with operations, and not just simply in your area. You also have to have a very good understanding of what's happening globally, across sectors, even different sectors, and how they actually impact you as your business. And in terms of skills, you're looking beyond the numbers. You'll probably get roped in terms of how to do strategic HR. And importantly is how to apply digital technologies, such as I mentioned earlier, analysis, big data. How do you actually use that information? Last but not the least, tax. We expect new challenges that will demand a more global perspective, strong collaboration, building relationship, as well as advocacy and negotiation skills. In terms of skills, we need specialist skills, business awareness, and understanding of data analysis tools and expert systems. Now, there was a very famous study that was done by Oxford University, and it says that what is a likelihood that looked at the likelihood of an accountant being automated. So again, go through the app and tell me what you think is a percentile of the role of accountant being automated. Is it 15%, 45%, 68%, 81%, or 94%? Everybody voted on your app? Ready? Are you going to change figures on me later on? All right, let's try it. Can we get the results for Q5, please? %. Okay, is winning. Nobody says 15? All right, couple more seconds. And we're stopping. All right. And the answer is 94% is actually expected to be automated over the next couple of years. That is really, really high. Absolutely amazingly high. 94% will be automated. But it is an opportunity for us as professional accountants because we have other things, right? We have professional judgment, professional skepticism that we need to apply, looking at our ethics, using our emotions to build relationships, business acumen, and clearly financial understanding of the businesses we work for or we work in. So in our study, we said, so if technology is going to take the world or take some of the roles, what do we need to do as professional accountants? How can we continue to add value? And our study boiled down to 7 key qualities in terms of what professional accountants need to have. First is our TEQ. That's our technical skills and a strong ethical compass. A society today expects a very ethical way of how to conduct business. And that is really the bread and butter of being a professional accountant. And it's not going to change. It still will be needed in the future. We will also need IQ, which we all also have. And IQ is actually different from Googling or checking online what the answer is. It's actually how to use that information or that knowledge and apply them in your day-to-day jobs or in situations. The next one is the digital quotient. We will need to be digitally professionals in terms of how do we actually use digital tools today, but also thinking about what are the new tools that are coming up and how we can actually look to use them to increase efficiency, to do better audits. We will also need EQ. And this is something that we probably don't use often, but in our workplace. We probably use them mostly in our personal lives, right? But rarely do we use them in our professional lives. And this is the way we actually harness our own emotions, harnesses other people's emotions, and actually feel in terms of understanding what makes them tick, how actually they're responding. And that's something that robots or computers can't really do just yet. And it's these skills or this emotional quotient or emotional intelligence that we will need in the future as we build relationships. And the relationships will matter more in the future than it does today, potentially. Next, we need experience. Again, something that a computer can't gain. One can argue they can, because you can have machine learning, right? Machine learns along the way. So machine learning is basically, if you think about Google car, the autonomous car, where it drives on its own, over time, Google car is actually learning. At the moment, it has some problems. It's hitting people. But over time, it's trying to recognize, is that a reflection from the sun, or is that actually a physical object? And that's machine learning. So over time, it's building, through experience, through its own experience, it's building how to respond to different things. But again, our experience that we've held as, for centuries is actually very important. Next we have is creativity. How many people have been creative recently? Not cooking the books, yes, but actually thinking outside the box, finding new solutions. That's not actually what we do day to day. So we need some CQ, which we call the creative quotient. Finally, but not the least, we will need VQ, which is vision. Being able to anticipate what will happen in the future. Not simply looking at historical data and reporting on them, but trying to anticipate what will happen. How will it affect my business? How will it affect my team? Looking more broadly, as you saw from all the 6 themes, the holistic view is much more important than in the past, and much more important is to look forward. So we call this the professional quotients for success. In the middle, as I mentioned earlier, is our technical and ethical skills. It's actually going to be vital moving forward, but it's no longer sufficient. What we will need to do is to complement it with 6 other skills. But these 6 other skills will vary. Their balance and their optimal mix will vary depending what role you're in, what part you are in your career, what stage you are in your career, and what industry you're working in. So this may sound so theoretical at the moment, but not to worry. I would like to bring Mr. Sanwal, who is the group president for Abatech, on stage, and he will give you how has he used these 7 key qualities in his day-to-day work, life. Mr. Sanwal has just actually flown from San Francisco, and he actually works with one of the companies I mentioned earlier today. He actually works directly with Tesla. He actually works in terms of creating the buttons, the interaction between human and computer. So these little keys, the way you switch on your lights on Tesla's cars, the windows, all that is what Mr. Sanwal does with Tesla. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Sanwal on the stage to give his take on how he uses these 7 qualities to bring these 7 qualities into life.
Thank you. I think Ms. Chua today mentioned quite a lot of interesting ideas. In the morning we talked, Kun Prasan just mentioned we have to adopt. And we have some statistics talking about automation. Our job will be automized, so what we do, where to change, and what to change. My background is actually not from the CPA or audit firm like most of you I see today. It was 25 years back. I was one of the audit firm partner. Today I am representing actually a global multinational with the job of president plus CFO. So I still foresee the finance side. And today I would like to share, as coming from the industry, like Mr. Yi just mentioned, 60–70% of the accountants are actually now in the industries. So how in the industry we look, what we look, and how these key qualities we need in the industry. So that will help us in the long term. Being an accountant, you have multiple purpose, and how in the industry you can easily fit in. To start with, technical skills or a strong ethical compass. I think that's our one basic background. We learn, we become a CPA or bachelor or master. We learn the law, we learn the accountings, and that's what people trust us. We have certain level of standard. So we use the related accounting and law areas in our day-to-day life as an accountant. We make sure that we apply this knowledge. We play a good role in the corporate citizenship. People look at us as an accountant, they believe us, and we work with the organization and make sure they follow the regulated bodies correctly and clearly. And that's why in many places, CPAs are asked to sign or certify. I think in Thailand, in the tax returns, you also need an auditor to confirm that. Because we stand for it. We show that we are good corporate citizens. What we also look in the industry is the strategic assessment. We as an accountant are sitting with many informations. And we are sitting in a situation where we can help to do the assessment. What we also can do, we talk a lot about the systems, fraud protections. Today we have a certain level of fraud protection system in our company, system and process. And this, we have the responsibility. The question is how to realize that going forward. And of course, action risk. It's very funny. When I talk about action risk, I remember 15 years back, before 1997 crisis in Thailand, it was quite stable. Baht was stable. Nobody talked about it. What can happen? There are many companies I know in Thailand in those times, they borrowed a lot in the foreign currency. Until today, they could not pay their principal amount. Till today. They're still suffering. They are still just recovering the interest. So we failed during those times to realize those. And today, the action risk is like a stock exchange. Every day today, 1% up, 2% down, it is normal for us now. We live in a very uncertain situation today. So as an accountant, we also are a symbol of trust. People look at us and say yes. And I think that was Mr. Azmi mentioned, right? We will have a job, yes. People will trust us. We will be there to certify. So there will be a job, and that we have to honor it. That's our technical compass. So how we can do further, what we can realize further to create more value. To create more value, not just putting a stamp on the paper, yes, the paper is correct. We want to do more to drive the value, knowing our job. A lot of job will be automated. What I see that we have a lot of facing with the disconnected global laws. This is a fact. If I go to China, or if I go to many countries, I will not specify all the names, but a custom to custom between different countries, they understand so-called same harmonized code. Harmonized stands for same, similar. But even in Germany, a custom official will interpret different than Chinese, or even in Thailand. That is an interpretation problem, but within the same government, one staff will differentiate differently than others. So here our knowledge comes to a play, how we can master this and support the organization so that we don't end up in the troublesome situation. I think we know a lot of data. We are sitting with the many information about accounting and what is going on in our groups. Some companies have many subsidiaries. So we as an accountant actually should not just sit and say, hey, there is a loss, there is a profit here. We are supposed to say, we have this situation, we should go for this. We should come more with the information that makes sense for the management. And a computer or digital cannot do that. Artificial intelligence will only can say to prepare a financial report maybe. But it cannot analyze and say what we should do next. Sometimes, like in Asia, there are different laws. Also in America or Europe, we have all this everywhere. Sometimes it makes sense to do an asset deal, but sometimes it makes sense, let's do an equity deal. And I think our tax partner sitting here maybe can understand this, what I'm trying to say that, because it has a big impact. Sometimes in some companies, if you do an equity deal, you end up in bigger problems. Then you say, no, better go asset deal. The things are not transparent. Why take risk? I think as an accountant, we are sitting with many information, and that gives us the idea how to use our core strength in the organization. We know it actually. As an accountant, we know it. We prepare a P&L, we prepare a balance sheet. You know where is the problem. You know where is the core strength of the company. And we, instead of just doing the papers, actually we can talk. Let's develop this. And I think we are in the best position to actually set up the system to detect fraud. I see in my experience level in the working is, as long as you buy a standard, you buy this thing, you know the price. You can easily detect. You can easily control. But when it comes to buy a customized solutions, customized product, there you get troubles. Because there is no straight answer. And how to detect those situations of fraud. And that is a challenging part. And we as an accountant can work together to set up the system. And we just talk about action risk. And actually, action risk is, we have choice. We can just take it. We can say action risk is given. Thai baht today is this. Today already euro 39. Okay, that is our life. If you are an importer, you suffer. Last 3 months was cheaper, right? Now it's more. But if you are an exporter, maybe you're better. But you don't know next 1 month what will happen. So our job is to analyze this risk, which is transaction risk, buying and selling, translation. Sometimes we have a loan in foreign currency, how to manage that. So those are the jobs we use our knowledge, and we can add value that a computer cannot do. And that's what industry needs today. Every company more or less facing those challenges, and they need professional accountant to help us. If you're an internal auditor, you can also guide when you see the client, hey, why you don't have a hedging? You will have problems. You can be a consultant. And we, of course, have to do the trust through doing the performance. We walk the talk. We say them, yes, this is the way to go. We never compromise on ethics. Coming to the IQs, I see the opportunities is we need to understand more than accounting. What does it mean? It means we know the P&L, we know the debit credit, and we know this thing will be automized. So how to know information around us? Like today you are here, you're not talking about numbers. We are not talking about P&L. We are talking something more. How to get those information and make it work. We need to look at the customized control process, and this is very challenging topic. We learn by the books. We set the systems. This is what we see from friends or colleagues. But no, as we go on, organization need more customized process, more customized systems. The more, that's what the demand. And we as an accountant can do better. We need to be more, instead of giving information, right? Today my P&L is ready, I give to my boss, my management, CEO, here is the P&L report, we did 10% more. We have to go for more as an advisor. We say, this is the situation, how we take it further from here. And, very important, instead of giving facts, we need to give solution. We need to say, this is the way to go, these are the options available, what we go about it. To realize that, we need to do always root cause. As an accountant, we have a very strong logical skills. We are much better to go for this type of jobs. We can highlight problem areas. We can actually be a solution advisor. Many global companies, like where I'm from now, is sitting with the technological changes and supply chain issues. As this internet world is coming, more and more things are moving fast. And more we are in a more complex working environment. And as an accountant, knowing all these facts, we are in a much better position compared to other fields like engineers or doctors, whatever, science. Using the experience, yes, today we are here, we learn a lot of interesting information from our learned professionals, their experience, how they see the world. Lesson learned experience, how we look at the future organization, more than budget numbers. Often we will ask to make a budget. Let's make a budget for next year, next 2 years. That's our request, right? We get to do that. But we have to look more than that. What numbers can represent? Not only the budgets. We have to look at our experience, what can go. We have to available resource, what we have. Every situation is unique for every, either it's a government or it's a private sectors. Even if you're a CPA firm, you still have to look. What are you have the available resources and how you materialize them. Like one of the mentioned was, we hire engineers or you hire doctors because you want to audit the hospitals or check the hospital. So that helps. So offer possible desired strategic outcomes and analyze organization core value. This is a strategic topics. And as an accountant, we have to touch that. And we are the most close to the strategy. Actually, we are the most close. Every strategy needs some level of financial data to understand where we are. We need to optimize based on our visions, our past experience, how it looks, and offer based on always better options. That only can be done if you have a better experience. If you just straight learner, you might fall into trouble. So, lastly, I will say what I see, it's a little bit off the topic, is that challenges we see in the ASEAN and developing economy, that the law need to change. We talk about the digital economy today. There are many things that we cannot change. We cannot change the speed of change. We have to accept. And I request humbly that you all the team here, really look at the law. Does law really helping us? Law should be there to detect fraud. Law should be there to facilitate working. And so we should look at the law that has to be changed. Many countries have adopted that example. In some countries, you can do a contract by digital. You get the email, you get the contract, you use your pen, maybe an iPad or your finger, and here you go, contract done. Is legal. But in some countries, even one page is not enough to sign. You need, in one page, maybe 2 or 3 signatures, physically detailed. So that is law that we have to look. Cost of manpower will push for productivity, and that is happening. If you don't add value, we have to add more value. We have to be more productive. We should be able to do more. Why? Industry will see my cost is going up. So how I recover my cost? And this is one of the fundamental problems that we have to face. That will lead to automation. he will be sitting with a lot of automation. So our profession as well will have some automation. We cannot change. Language obstacle is there. I still find difficult. I can speak a little bit Thai, but when I look at the contracts and legal law, I struggle. And not only here, I think Indonesia or many, many countries, we don't have yet the uniform language that I think it can help. And simplification of legal process. I think in some countries, it does not matter. I love it today morning when our DVD mentioned that you can do online. You can create a company next year online, which is a good news. Now, ไม่ต้องไป DVD ใช่ไหมครับเวลาทำบริษัทใหม่ we can do ourselves. We can do online ทำได้หมดนะ That's like here. But actually, in some countries like US, if you know in US, many stock exchange listed company, the NASDAQ or all that, they are all incorporated in Delaware because of their law. But to create a company in Delaware in US, you don't have to be in Delaware. You can be in California. You can be in Illinois. You set up the company there as a holding company, and that company go to listing. Because you don't want to end up many, many lawyers making a case against the company. So you don't have to be there to make a company. You do all online. And this is one of the examples I give out, how simplification. I'm trying to say here, the digital thing is coming. We can be afraid, oh, it's coming, it's going to hurt us. Or we can say, it is an opportunity, it's a challenge to change. So my motto here is, let's challenge the change. Let's adopt it and make the best out of it for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanwal. Can we give another applause to Mr. Sanwal for his help this afternoon? It's actually a great privilege to have him here today, considering, he's an accountant, he's an ACCA member, and he's literally working at the cusp of technology. And to share his insights on how he uses those 7 quotients is actually invaluable to all of us. So, in terms of closing, I'll just give a couple words. So in the future, as we know, digital's here. There's no point of pushing it away. I think the word is, let's channel, use it, embrace it. But at the same time, let's see what we can do so we are not that 94%. And how do we do that, right? So whether you are the assurer, advisor, your risk steward, or the finance partner, or an analyst, what we need to convert is terms of how do we constantly add value. Our fingertip needs to be on how do we convert volume to value. And I'll reiterate the 7 quotients for success. This is what our global research has shown. Employers are looking for these skills. It's not only what ACCA says, it's what the profession says. What employers need from us as professional accountants today and tomorrow are these 7 skills. And as I mentioned earlier today, we will need to find an optimal mix on how we use those 7 skills. So, again, we're all digital capable because we can use our phones, and I'll have another test. I need you guys to think about this question and type on your phones whether you agree or disagree with this statement. I keep myself informed about the latest developments in digital technologies, like data-driven decision-making and smart software, to assess opportunities for my clients and my organization. Is this something that you disagree? Strongly disagree? Neither agree nor disagree? Agree or strongly agree? Now let's be true to ourselves when we answer this question. Do we provide clients or businesses in terms of new developments? Do you or do you not? All right. Can we get the poll, please? All right. I think that's where we're going to leave it as. And that's really good. There's people that agree, but I want everybody in this room to be at strongly agree in the next couple of days, where we're actually challenging our businesses, right? It's no longer enough that we actually here. We need to be all the way here, whether it's for our business or for whether it's our clients. So if you want to have more of this test in terms of how you score on the professional quotients, we have an interactive test. It's available online at www.accglobal.com/thefuture. Feel free to use it and download the report as well.
เดี๋ยวเราพักกันสักครู่นะคะช่วงหน้ามาติดตามอีกหนึ่งงานสัมมนาที่ทั้งให้ผู้ประกอบการวิชาชีพไทยรับมือกับการเปลี่ยนแปลงเทคโนโลยีในอนาคตค่ะ